But Johnny, you picked CEH, and it made me do the old huh?
Right here.
Before we move on, I want to let Whisper Nation know that we are nothing without their support, and we are so proud of this community we have built together. If you feel it upon your heart to help us continue to grow this family and chase this dream, consider joining us over on patreon.com. You can show your support at all the different tier levels there. Patron benefits include access to our exclusive Discord channels, entries to sports card giveaways, increased odds for a landing spot in our 2021 Listener League, and bonus fantasy content that is only available to our patrons. Head on over to patreon.com/The Fantasy Whispers today and join the nation. Johnny, people are not going to like this, but Johnny, you picked CEH, and it made me do the old huh? The old Tim the Toolman Taylor when you did that in the third round. RB16 is where he's going right now, 305. Look, we know the story here. Rough rookie season after being drafted and handpicked by Mahomes in that first round, but did not convert a lot of his goal line looks, has not looked like that goal line back. Johnny, we have a guy like Jerick McKinnon coming in here. We've got some other things working around, but to be honest, the draft capital should say that CEH is going to have a bounce back year, and he's going in the third round. We don't have to pay that astronomical price, but why should Whisper Nation feel that he's being overdrafted still?
When you look at the Kansas City Chiefs offense, originally, the whole idea is that we thought Andy Reid, or we're under this impression that Andy Reid generally likes to use one running back in his system. However, what we've tend to see over the last 3 years is that's not the case. They have, and generally even longer than that, they have really split this up into mostly a RB1 and an RB2 kind of situation. So in the RB1 will get roughly about 42%, 41% of the market share. They haven't seen any higher over the last 3 years than 42% market share, Travis. Now, I will say that just because they don't use them, like in the 55 to 60% ranges, which is what we generally like to see with guys that are like bell cow running, quote unquote, bell cow running backs. That's what, is that definition these days. You don't generally see that with the RB2 in Andy Reid's system and the RB3. So in this case, it'll be, Darrell Williams and I believe Jerick McKinnon. Those guys will make up about 30% of the rushing market share between those two guys. I do expect CEH to get about 42%. We also know that Pat Mahomes over the last 3 years, he's averaged 15% rushing share on this team. What you mentioned, the goal line carries, he wasn't great at the goal line carries. You also look at the RB2 in this situation, Darrell Williams. He's a much bigger back. You also look at what they generally do on offense. They give that RB3 a lot of receiving work out of the backfield. So I do think that Jerick McKinnon is going to be that guy that they use for the pass catching. We saw him excel at that. The limit is touches. I do project CEH to get the bulk of the carries here. He is going to be the guy. However, he's just not going to score enough touchdowns in order to make up the gap, and he doesn't average a high enough yards per carry in order to really excel that, his stats. And so, yes, do I think that he's on a good offense with an improved offensive line, but the other reality of it is how Kansas City uses this running back position, and it's not like they use other teams use it, because when they get in the red zone, they trust Pat Mahomes more than they trust a running back. And so for me, when I just let the stats speak for themselves, I do the research, I put in the numbers, and I let them reveal to me whatever they do. And CEH was one that honestly was a little bit of a surprise. But when I have them, projected for about 180 fantasy points, 170 fantasy points in a half PPR league, Travis, that's a huge disappointment, especially for some of the guys that are going around. Like, for example, we talked about Mike Davis here. We got drafted in the 5th round. I have him scoring more than 170 fantasy points, Travis. So that's where you can kind of get information. I'm not saying he's a bad running back. I just don't think the opportunity share is going to be there like we had hoped, nor the history of Andy Reid has shown over the last few days. So I think it's a trap for CEH.
Yeah, I I can get behind it a little bit, except for the fact that CEH is only 1 year removed from being drafted in the first round. So yeah, you have track record of Andy Reid over the last few years, but similar to the San Francisco situation that we were talking about earlier, I think it's about what they've had at running back, more about that than it is about, CEH not going to be getting the opportunity share. I think if
Kareem Hunt had 44%. Kareem Hunt had 44% rushing share in this offense.
The year that he was the overall rushing leader?
No, I'm saying
his rookie
year
season.
After. The rookie season, he was the only running back. You have to remember he wasn't even the RB1 going in, and then Daryl went down, it was Spencer Ware went down in preseason with the torn ACL. That's why he got the 63%. Other than that year, it's always been about 44%, 42.
And they drafted
44.
CEH in the first round is what I'm getting at. So it's more likely to be closer to that than it is the 40% in my mind, because they are committed to that. The other thing is, you talk about the red zone. He didn't get a lot of red zone opportunities, but even worse than that, he didn't convert on them. He had 28 carries inside the 20 and only 3 touchdowns, 13 inside the 10 and only 1 touchdown. I mean, that number comes up by even half, maybe a 20% increase from last year, and you're liking what you get out of him. He's more of an RB1 than an RB2. And I think you're drafting him right now, RB16. That's kind of at the median. I think that's his floor, just based on offense and opportunity. And then you're going to get a situation where he's able to hit a ceiling in this offense if they do start using him more in the red zone, and he can convert on that. So, but I like what you had there. I mean, definitely, I love that you're able to come back after digging in this, into the draft kit, which was now available at pre-sale over on the fantasywhispers.com. Johnny's over there digging into these projections. He says, look, these are what the numbers are telling me. I've got to let Whisper Nation know.
Right here.
Oh, you watched the whole video? That's impressive. But if you want to learn how to dominate your draft or win your league, why don't you head on over to the fantasywhispers.com and grab your draft kit today? Or you could click the link in the description below. And if you're still not sold, check out one of these videos.